Hello and welcome. This is Michaela with Honest Talk Radio. Honest Talk Radio is a space where we will be sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly in real, raw conversations to try and do our part to reduce the amount of shame, guilt, and judgment that many women face. So our hope is that through these conversations, you'll feel supported and encouraged in every aspect of your life. Specifically tonight, we're back with Sanjay Raja, and tonight's topic is going to be food myths. So welcome back, Sanjay.
Hey, how are you doing?
Great.
So I know you and I talked about this subject before we kind of went on air, and I think it's important to cover this because, we hear a lot of misinformation from advertising and TV and all these media sources, and then there's a lot of real information that gets lost in the misinformation. So I figured we can kind of dispel some common myths and hopefully educate a few people in the process.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just so much information out there, and it's hard to tell what is truth, especially with the beautiful tool Google. We have answers at our fingertips, but it's really hard to get. Sometimes you can get lost in things that aren't necessarily fact.
Yeah, too much information is a bad thing, and that's what Google provides is too much information. So a lot of times you'll get lost in the minutia. But I think one of the most commonly asked food myth questions I get is about yogurt. Mm-hmm. So you as a mom, I'm sure, can appreciate giving your kids yogurt, right?
Right.
So, in my early stages of starting the company, I would go to places like Whole Foods, Fresh Market, all these big organic grocery stores because they've got all the fancy brands of yogurt. And I would just turn around the label and just take pictures of them and just kind of catalog, because I was just kind of getting a sense of what these food manufacturers do. And what I found was that on average, most common brands of yogurt like Yoplait, Chobani, all these yogurts, not the Greek yogurt, but mostly like the original type of yogurts, they have enough sugar in them that you might as well eat a candy bar because you're going to get the same level of nutrition out of it.
Oh my gosh. And and they're advertised to you like they're the healthiest thing on the planet.
Yeah, the sugar, they use the sugar to hide the taste. But to your point, yes, they're pushing the good bacteria cultures in the yogurt. And what I tell people all the time is you don't need to eat yogurt. Eat sauerkraut, eat a pickle, eat anything fermented, you'll get the same bacteria.
So here's a question for you. What about homemade yogurt?
I think that's awesome. In fact, when I grew up, I grew up in an East Indian household. My mom made her own yogurt every Sunday, and she made it especially sour. So the more sour it is, then there's more live cultures in it. So we had homemade yogurt pretty much every day in my house.
So recently, I know that there's a big craze out there with the Instant Pot. And
right.
I tried my hand at making homemade yogurt last week. And I have to say, I noticed a huge difference with the texture and the taste. And my kids, I was kind of sad because of how long it took me to make it. And it was gone within a few days.
Well, that's good. At least they liked it, right?
Yeah,
so that's
exactly.
And, with homemade yogurt, one of the snacks I tell my clients is that you take yogurt, and if it's homemade, even better. Mm-hmm. Mix it with fresh fruit, some walnuts, and a drizzle of honey, and you're good to go. You don't have to buy that prepackaged stuff that's loaded with sugar. That's the equivalent of 2 or 3 candy bars.
Oh, well, that's good news because that's exactly what we did, and that's been a go-to snack of theirs all week. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, you're on the right track. And whenever you can take a common prepackaged product and make it yourself, mm-hmm. that's always a better idea because you control what goes in it, and then that way you're pretty sure as to what you're going to get out of it.
Right, exactly. So another common, maybe I don't know if it's a myth or something that I know that a lot of moms do, or women or families do, is hide vegetables or fruit in food to make sure that their child is getting an adequate amount of fruits or vegetables. But maybe, that they're hiding, the kinds of things that they're hiding them in aren't always the best.
True. So when I started writing my book, I was doing the research on other books like mine. And the most popular book on the market at the time was a book written by Jessica Seinfeld, who's the wife of Jerry Seinfeld. Mm-hmm. She came up with a brilliant idea to puree vegetables and make them part of the ingredients in desserts.
Right.
So she would puree, broccoli and cauliflower and throw it into cakes and cookies and all this stuff. And then all these other authors started following suit. So you had all these books just hiding it. And to me, it was pretty obvious. Unless your kids are planning on living with you for the rest of their life, and unless you're planning on cooking for them for the rest of your life, what actually are you doing? You're actually causing them to have a disparity in knowledge and a detriment, because you're telling them, don't eat any of this stuff, hide it in desserts, and then when they're adults, they won't have a taste for it, number one. Yeah. And number two, they're going to pass that same knowledge on to their children.
Right. Yeah, because it's the circle of life. And,
absolutely.
Talk about that a lot in your speech at the Bestie Weekend, is how a lot of where our ideas and thoughts surrounding food come from our parents, which came from their parents. And at what point do you break the cycle?
Yeah, that's so true, because we just, it's such a daunting subject and such a big subject that families tend to not want to put some thought into it. So they kind of take the knowledge passed on to them from grandma and then her generation before that, because it takes actual work to change the path and trajectory of nutrition for your kids early on.
Right. Well, and a lot of times we just don't know what we don't know. Like a lot of things that I did or ate growing up, or my husband ate growing up, we thought were healthy. And It wasn't until later in life where it was like, oh, maybe not. For example, fruit juice.
No. Oh, yeah. So I know you and I talked about this offline a little bit. So there was this article I just published from USA Today on my site talking about not only do most fruit juice brands contain a lot of sugar, but they contain a lot of dissolved heavy metals. So they were testing out over 45 popular fruit juice brands. We're talking grape juice, apple juice, orange juice, all these popular brands, and over 50% of them had amounts of heavy metals such as lead and mercury that were 4 times the acceptable limit.
Why on earth is there lead and mercury in our juices?
Well, it's pretty, it's sad the way we created such a disparity in how we process our food. So what happens is juices, typically the most popular apples, apple juice, grape juice, they actually have a very thin skin. So what happens is the pesticides that are used in the fields contain a lot of these heavy metals at times. Yeah. And also, where the most amount of heavy metals comes from is from the water that they use to fertilize these crops is runoff water. And so it's not fresh water sources. So it's a lot of runoff water that's got dissolved a lot of the heavy metals like mercury and lead. So this water is now used to help grow these plants along with the pesticides. So the skin is so thin, the fruit is absorbing all these chemicals. Wow. And so therefore, when they process the juice, you're getting sugar, juice, and anything they've added to it, which is the pesticides and any of the dissolved heavy metals.
So what would be your suggestion then as far as, really we don't need juice in our everyday diet, but let's say, just fruits in general then. How do we get around being exposed to those?
Well, the best way to do it is to have your kids eat their fruit versus drink their fruit. Okay. Because here's the thing. So and this is slightly a tangent, but it's related. And I see all these people go on these juice cleanse diets, right? And the problem with the juice cleanse diet is that you're separating the pulp from the juice. Now, the pulp contains fiber. So when you eat a piece of fruit, for example, when you eat a strawberry, you're not, let's say the strawberry contains 8 grams of sugar, but that's a really high number. It doesn't contain that much, but let's say it did.
Yeah.
The fiber eliminates a good percentage of the sugar from the fruit. Okay, so you're not absorbing 8 grams of sugar. You're absorbing maybe 30% of that. Okay. So when you do the juice, you remove the fiber, so now you're drinking straight sugar. Yeah, so that's what people don't understand with these juice cleanses. They're like, I feel so good. I said, I don't know how you feel good because you just drank straight sugar, but you did. And so, so that's why when we're telling kids, hey, drink your fruit or drink your vegetables, you're setting them up for failure because they're loaded with sugar, number one, right. And you're allowing them to eat food in their natural form. Right. So when you're eating strawberries, when you're eating raspberries, when you're eating all these fruits, you have the choice to buy organic or non-organic. Typically, the organic have less pesticides on average, but they still have some. But then you can pick and choose what you want to do, but you will not be consuming as much of those dissolved heavy metals when you eat it versus drink it.
Got it. Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. Now.
I mean, it's so hard to understand that because it's all about convenience and getting your kids to do it. And even in this article, I posted a number of the juice boxes, which every kid goes to school and has a juice box at lunch, contains a lot of heavy metals.
Here's another question, and something that I've noticed has become maybe not a trend, but some kids do. The like Mio or the flavor enhancers that people put in waters instead of taking juice? What about those?
So, my theory on that is really simple. Are you telling your kids that regular water is not good enough? Is that what you're telling your kids? So, instead of using those flavorings, which are chemicals, which are dyes, you know what? At our house, if my kids want something a little bit different, instead of drinking regular water, we'll do fruit-infused water.
Yeah.
So, it's real simple. You can do like mint and strawberry, which is a fat burner and also tastes good. So, the water infuses into the fruit and releases that flavor. So, I would say go that route versus buying something that A, will add up over time. Number two, we don't even know how those chemicals react in your body over time. And three, why would you want to put in chemicals in your water? There's already enough dissolved chemicals in tap water. So
right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we do a lot of ginger and lemon.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you can make your own concoctions, and you shouldn't rely on that all the time. But it's a good way to change what they're drinking up. But at the end of the day, most kids don't get enough water, and we as parents have to set the example.
Right.
And basically say, hey, we drink water for dinner, for lunch, whatever it may be. And, if you lead, they will follow.
Yeah, my husband won't let us leave, any of us, myself included, he won't let us leave the house until we've all filled up our water bottles.
Smart man. Smart man. Love it.
I have to admit, though, I struggle. I really do struggle with my water intake. But shout out to Rachel Hollis, the author of Girl Wash Your Face. I felt like when I was listening to her Audible book, she was yelling at me saying, drink half your body weight in water. And so...
It's so true. I drink probably on average 3 gallons a day because my water bottle is constantly filled up. So by the time I'm done, I'm just fully loaded. So, and here's the thing. It will help looking younger, number one. It helps reduce wrinkles when you drink water, number one. Number two, it is involved in every chemical process in your body. We're human bodies over 70% water anyways. Right. So, it's just one of those things where we take it for granted and we drink sodas, juices, and all this stuff. And I used to be guilty of it as a kid. Oh, the juice contains water, so I'm getting water. Well, actually, you're not.
Yeah.
So, so that's what people say to themselves to convince themselves they're getting the water.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better. And I actually find that the more I drink it, the more I like it.
Exactly. It just becomes a habit, Get a glass of water, and if you're not drinking something, I would say this. My morning routine is 1 cup of coffee, the rest is water, and I haven't had any juice for like 6-7 years. But my kids see me drinking water constantly. They've got their water bottles, so just like your husband, we fill it up as a family. They constantly ask for more water throughout the day.
Yeah, so true. Leading by example. Another common... So this has always been one that's interesting to me is like, this isn't necessarily with kids, but multi-grain bread versus whole grain bread. I grew up thinking that multi-grain bread was was better, was a good option for me. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say let's go with option C. So option C is sprouted grains. Have you ever had sprouted grains?
Yes, we have some right now.
Exactly. So, multigrain, whole grain, there's really not much difference in it. What I would do, if you really are looking for the difference between the two, is look at the ingredients and see which one has the least amount of, unpronounceable chemical names. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And go with that one. But my third option is sprouted grains. Like, that's all we eat at home. So what is sprouted grains? What that means is they take the wheat grains and basically soak them in water.
Mm-hmm.
It loosens up the fibers, and they basically mash it down, and they create flour out of it. Now, what's great about sprouted grains is they put the least amount of preservatives in there. That's why they're usually kept in the freezer section of the breads.
Right.
So they will go bad after 3 days, which is what bread should be like.
Right.
So, most of the time, I see all these breads sitting on store shelves. You could sit there and have them sit there on the shelf for weeks on end because they've lost a lot of their nutritional value because they filled it with a common additive. Now, are you familiar with riboflavin?
Yes.
All
well,
right, so
I know. I've heard of it. Do I know what it is? No.
It's pretty much in a lot of stuff we consume. So what happens is riboflavin, the reason why they add it is because food needs to have a certain amount of nutritional content.
Mm-hmm.
So processed breads typically don't have a lot. So what happens is they add this flavoring or this chemical riboflavin to provide a little bit of nutritional content. So you're not eating something that's completely devoid of any nutrition. So
interesting.
And extend shelf life too. So
yeah. Yeah, but I know it's a pain to have to throw out your bread, or throw out your bread every couple of days, but it really does make a big difference.
It does. It makes a huge difference. I mean, I left out some of my sprouted English muffins for like a day by mistake, and they went moldy, and I was like, all right, I know they're not full of chemicals, so that's good.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a question that I get, or that I hear a lot, or maybe not even a question, but a comment, is that, well, my child is so picky, but he or she will grow out of it.
So there's a section in my book about picky eaters, and I'm very, very passionate about this, and a lot of people don't like the answer, which is picky eaters aren't born, they're created.
Uh-huh.
So I get this question a lot too. My son's so picky, my daughter's, and I just literally have to look him straight in the eye, and I just have to say, I really am sorry to say this, but you created this monster.
Right.
You did, and how'd you do it? Well, you gave him a choice, is what you did.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When they're young, if you give kids too many choices, that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You got to provide direction, provide structure, because you know better than they do. Because if you're going to put a piece of cake and a piece of fruit, they're going to choose the cake every single time.
Right.
So that's why we need to make those choices for them. So picky eaters are not born. They are created. The reason how they're created, number one, we give them too many choices. Number two, we don't lead by example. That's the biggest fault right there. So if they see you eating pizza, cheese, mac and cheese all the time, what do you think they're going to do?
Right.
They're going to want the same thing. And then we scold them for not eating their vegetables. Well, if you're not doing it, why would you expect them to do it?
Yeah. So what happened? What about on the flip side, though, if you, as you cook a meal and it's a nice meal and it's got lots of veggies and it's super yummy and delicious, and the parents love it, but the kids are throwing a fit, and you end up making something else for them.
So that's what you're creating. It's by taking the path of least resistance initially,
mm-hmm.
you're creating more problems for yourself down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just going to be a headache. So early on, when I took charge of the kids' nutrition, they fought me. They didn't like this, they didn't like that. But my rule is you try everything at least one time.
Mm-hmm.
It takes, on average, at least 8 times for a kid to see the same meal over and over and try it over and over before they start to gravitate towards it.
I'm laughing at that because every Christmas, my mom would make Brussels sprouts.
Yeah.
And I hated Brussels sprouts, or at least I thought I hated Brussels sprouts. I would tell her, no, I don't like them. I don't like them. But she's like, you just have to eat one. Every Christmas, I knew I was going to have to eat one Brussels sprout. And it's funny because that is probably one of my favorite vegetables to go eat now. It's just, I don't know if I didn't like it or said I didn't like it just to spite my mom.
Yeah.
And then she, in the end, won out because she just made me eat them. But
well,
yeah, I love it.
You know, what it is she was persistent. She was persistent, which is awesome. And like I said, she didn't force you or anything. She said, I just need you to try one. And over time, you'll develop a taste for it. But a lot of times, you know, it's our rebellious nature as kids. Right. You tell us something to do, we just don't want to do it.
Exactly. So, the auto no.
Exactly. And, you know, the other one I really hate is when parents go out to restaurants, and I see this all the time. They order their meal, then the parents order the kids' meal. So then they're shocked as to why they won't try anything new.
Right.
Well, you created this monster. That's what you did.
Gosh, it drives me crazy that the only options in the kids' meal section is just the same thing over and over again. The chicken nuggets, the macaroni and cheese, the pizza.
It's the cheapest cuts of meat, deep fried, processed, and here's the thing, they upcharge it, and basically what the parents are doing every single time they give the kids meal is they are reinforcing this behavior of never try anything new, never eat anything healthy, and then the parents wonder why they can't get them to do that. So our rule is when we go out to eat, we sit down, the three of us, and we pick on the menu, and guess what? All of us have the same meal.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times in our family, we will pick a couple different dishes since there's 5 of us, perfect. And then we'll split, share it or something.
No, that's great. And so you're creating some really great habits in your kids too, because they see my parents eat healthy. They're not just telling me what to do; they're actually doing what they asked me to do.
What about when kids are on these food strikes? So they're kids can be pretty. They can stand their ground for a while. So the big concern of, well, if I don't give my daughter or son something, they're going to they're going to be hungry.
So that's a great question. So I would tell parents, no child ever died from skipping one meal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it sounds harsh, but it's true. Right. I mean, I dealt with it too. Like I had a lot of failures early on when I was introducing all these new foods to my kids. And guess what? Sometimes during dinner, they were like, we're just not eating this. I said, okay, well, guess what? Tomorrow for breakfast, you're going to be starving, and you're going to eat anything I put in front of you. I just know this. And that's exactly what happened.
Right.
So, and over time, they learned that I should probably just try it and eat it. Guess what? Then they realize if I do try it, the worst thing that will happen is they'll actually like it. So they just started to be more adventurous. They started pushing their boundaries. And that's what parents have to understand, which is, at this age, at a really young age, the younger the better, push their boundaries. They're adventurous. They want to try new things. They may say, I don't want to do it, but guess what? You're there to remove the hesitation, the doubt, and the fear. You'll eat it, they'll try it, and then start implementing these rules of trying everything once and keep offering it to them, because over time, it's going to become familiar to them, and they'll ask for it by name.
Yeah. So what are some of your kids' favorite foods?
Some of my kids, they've got a crazy palate. I mean, I've pushed their boundaries so far. Like we made Moroccan lamb stew probably about 3 days ago with black rice. So, traditional white rice I won't eat. It's full of sugar. Brown rice is good, but black rice is awesome because it's full of fiber, least amount of sugar, and it's colorful. So they like that nice black color. It's a good contrast to the Moroccan lamb stew, which has lamb, which is an awesome protein, and it's got carrots and some chickpeas and onions and garlic and all this good stuff in there. We do that, but they love, they are super diehard fans of Kansas City barbecues because that's where I'm from. So barbecue is like one of their favorite things, and one of the great things about barbecue especially is that it exposes them to all these different cuts of meat. You don't have to raise your kids to be carnivores, right. But if they are, they're really adventurous. I mean, they'll eat any kind of meat because they've had so much barbecue in their life. But, homemade stuff is probably their favorite stuff. Like, we'll do steaks at home. We'll do buffalo burgers. So I try to introduce some lean proteins, some non-common proteins as soon as I can. And then they ask for it by name because they'll say chicken, really? That's all? I'm like, okay, well. I'm like, I'm sorry the food is so pedantic for you today.
That's funny. So what happened? So you had said that, the earlier you start with your kid introducing, flavorful, colorful foods to your children, but what is it ever too late?
So that's a great question too. There comes a point, in the book I wrote, that it's never too late, but it's going to be such an uphill battle that you have to really stay persistent. Mm-hmm. So flavor profiles start for kids as early as 8 months old. That's why we made their own baby food when they were kids. Mm-hmm. So at this age, they crave broccoli instead of French fries because I used to blend in like broccoli and bananas, broccoli and sweet potatoes, trying to make sure they memorize the taste.
Yeah.
So is there a time where kids will say, I'm never going to change? That time actually is solely dependent on the parents, because at the age of 42, guess what? I'm still trying new things that I didn't like before.
Right. Me too.
So I'm pushing my boundaries as they're pushing their boundaries as well. So there's never a time when it's too late, but it really boils down to how much work you're willing to put in. Yeah. If you take the path of most resistance early, later in life your job becomes so much easier. But if you take the path of least resistance early, later in life your job becomes that much harder.
Yep, exactly. I growing up, I grew up in Southeast Asia, and we didn't really ask what we ate. We just ate it because it was in front of us and it was good. And later in life, I realized some of the things that I had ingested, and I have to admit, I'm like, what? I ate what? I ate sea snails, and I ate, these animals and that animal, and I had no idea because it was just second nature to me. And of course I would go back and I would eat it all again now, but knowing what it was a little bit more like, No,
it's so true. Like, we were in the Maldives in 2017, and their favorite food in the Maldives, and we went to Singapore, was barbecue stingray. They loved it. They still talk about it. So, it's just one of those things where I see how far I can push them, and I haven't reached that point where they'll say, there's no way we're trying it. I still haven't reached that point yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's good.
It's great. It's all the time. But before we drop the subject of common food myths, I would say let's bring up milk. Yes. Right? Because this is such an important one. And once I get on my milk soapbox, I usually don't stop. So,
we save the best for last.
Milk is so unnecessary to our diets. Since the kids were, about 1 to 2 years old, they stopped drinking milk completely. Mm-hmm. And they don't need it because, number one, you can get more calcium from foods, and now juice is fortified with calcium. But number two, milk. Name one other species on the planet that drinks another species' milk.
Right.
Seriously, that's number one. Now, I understand it was used back in the day to survive. They made different products. I get that. But guess what? We don't need to do that at this point in our society at all. And I'll tell you, my disgust for milk started because of two traumatic events. Number one was I grew up in India, and my grandfather asked me to go down to get some milk, some fresh milk. So I went down to the pasture, and there was we didn't have cows in India. We had water buffalo, we had goats, and we had yaks. Okay? Goat milk is very strong. Have you ever had goat milk?
I have. And actually, that goat milk was something that I know people, when we lived in Las Vegas, were saying was better. If you couldn't breastfeed, that goat milk was going to be the next best thing.
Yeah, it's got high content nutrition, but it's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So I could not stomach that. Water buffalo milk, I couldn't really take that either. But I made the mistake of glancing over, and the guy was milking a yak. And yak milk comes out pink, by the way.
Really?
It comes out naturally pink. And I thought, not to gross out our listeners, but I thought the animal was bleeding in the milk, honestly.
Oh, gosh.
So I was so traumatized by that. And it just, the vision in my brain just never left me for a really long time. So then fast forward when I moved to the States, I lived in Houston, and my mom would make me chocolate milk every morning. So I'd come downstairs, she had the back patio open, made me this big glass of chocolate milk. So one day I sat down at the dinner table, drank my chocolate milk. At the bottom of my cup, I found a dead butterfly. So I was traumatized so many times in my life with milk that I couldn't get over it. But moreover, the most important part of this this discussion is that they did a study in Sweden. Mm-hmm. And this was a landmark study that the American Dairy Association has squashed in the States, will not allow it to be published, which is they basically had over 5,000 women over the course of 5 to 6 years drink milk. The control group had 1 glass a day. The test group had 3 glasses a day. So guess which group had the higher rate of fractures?
The one that had 3 glasses a day.
Yes, and what they found was the enzyme in milk called galactose actually sped up fracture rates and actually accelerate osteoporosis.
Wow.
Yes. So that's what they found. And that landmark study will not make its way to the States because are you seeing these milk commercials again, the Milk Bus Snatches?
Yes, I've been seeing them a lot, and especially with my kids playing sports on how it's the best recovery drink.
Yeah, so the reason why you're seeing that is because almond milk, rice milk, all these alternative milks have taken over in terms of market share and are eating into the market share for traditional milk. Mm-hmm. Because now you have to drink, I like to call it discharge from another animal, kind of harsh, but it is. But you don't have to drink that stuff because it's pumped full of hormones. You don't know really what the animal is eating, and whatever the animal eats, it goes into the milk, which means you consume it. You know, right. So at the end of the day, there's absolutely no earthly reason why you should be drinking milk.
So on that subject, I know you're a big proponent of alternative milks like almond milk. Which one is best in your opinion? Almond, rice, coconut?
I like almond milk the best because you can get unsweetened almond milk and it contains no sugar and it's got a nice thick, nice richness about it. My kids drink it straight. And I use it as an ingredient for some of my protein pancakes, and it just makes them fluffy and really dense. So it's got this great flavor. You can get different flavors, unsweetened. Rice milk, if you have a nut allergy, is a good alternative, but rice milk contains a little bit more sugar than almond milk does, about 6 to 8 grams. And it's a little bit more thin. It's not as creamy. And then you've got soy milk. Now, soy milk I stay away from. The reason why is because soy raises estrogen levels in women and men. Right. And so that's why I try to stay away from anything soy.
Okay. Yeah, well, but soy milk was a big, or soy, using soy as an alternative was a big thing for a long time until people started to realize that the hormone. So I've never liked the stuff, but I do like almond milk.
It's okay if you like it. If you grew up with it, I totally get it. I understand it. But I can tell you right now that the myth behind milk does a body good is completely false.
Right. So on that note, is there any other food myths that you can think of that get you on a soapbox? Maybe not quite as much as milk, but...
Well, eggs. Eggs is a great... We all heard growing up, don't eat the yolk, right?
Right, yes.
The yolk is liquid gold, okay? It contains 98% of the nutrients that you would eat in a day in the yolk of an egg. And what's interesting is that people don't realize, and unless you do the research, you won't know this, which is eggs don't raise endogenous cholesterol. Your body will produce its own cholesterol. Eggs will not increase the amount of cholesterol in your body. That's a myth.
Right, okay.
So the reason why we were told this is because they created a market for egg whites, right? So we were told, eat the egg white, and not the yolk, when the yolk is the best part.
Yeah, there's really no nutrition in the egg whites, is there?
Yes, it's protein, but there's nothing else in there besides that.
Yeah.
So I eat 7 to 8 eggs a day, every day for the last 6 years, and guess what? My cholesterol is perfect.
That's crazy because my husband does too. He eats, his favorite thing is eggs, and he could eat them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and he has he's getting healthier the older he gets. I mean, the running and all that stuff helps too, but
absolutely.
We love eggs in this family. We go through cartons and cartons of eggs. Is there
Same.
a special way that you would recommend cooking them, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what you want to do is minimally cook your eggs. So that is, the more you cook your eggs, what happens is you'll denature the proteins, okay? So denaturing proteins means that proteins are in specific shapes and patterns within the egg. So when you superheat the egg and you overcook it, what happens is you basically break down that chemical structure, so they become what's called less bioavailable, okay? Mm-hmm. So you'll get the nutrients and protein, but you won't get as much when you denature it. So what we like to do in our house is poach the eggs. So poaching eggs, basically put it in a hot water bath, and we cook it minimally, so we like our egg yolk runny. Mm-hmm. And the least amount you cook it, the better it is.
So I'm not going to lie, I am not a professional when it comes to poaching my eggs. They always break and turn out a big old mess. But I have done it before where you put them in water in a muffin tin and then bake them in the oven. Have you ever done that?
Never done that. So the way we do it is basically I boil water. Once the water's boiling, I turn the heat halfway to simmer, and then I take a measuring cup, crack an egg in there, and the key is basically make sure the measuring cup goes underneath the water, pour the egg, and it won't spill out in different directions.
So you don't have to do any of this fancy swirling? And...
No, not at all.
Okay, I'm going to have to try it.
Nobody's got time for that here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when you said poaching eggs. I'm like, what? I know you're busy.
Nobody's got time for that here.
Okay, so, one more question about I think this could fall under the myth category. How about cooking oils?
Yeah, so great question. So what you want to stick to in oils is oils that are very naturally processed. So there's a new trend in oils called cold press. Have you seen that?
I have, yes.
Okay, so the difference between traditional oils and cold press is very simple. Traditional oils are basically superheated to extract the oil, which means they break down some of the nutrient qualities of the oil. You'll still get some, but not as much. Cold pressing means they retrieve the oil from the olive, from the coconut, in a cold temperature, so that means they're not destroying any of the good natural chemical compounds in the oil. So that's what we recommend cold pressed. Some of the best oils would be olive oil. Coconut oil is fantastic. We cook our omelets and other eggs in that when we're not poaching them in coconut oil because it contains a lot of good fats. Avocado oil is great. I tend to stay away from the canola oils and all the cheaper oils because those are created by mass-produced crops that are treated with a lot of fertilizer and a lot of pesticides, excuse me.
Is there an oil? I read somewhere, and I can't remember where, but something about certain oils are better at different cooking temperatures. So, if you're frying an egg versus, making omelets or something, I don't know, that you would want to use a specific oil for that.
Yeah, so for frying, peanut oil is fantastic. For making pancakes in the morning, coconut oil is great. And for your just general purpose cooking, olive oil is our go-to.
All right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we went a little bit over time today, but it's just so interesting. I could talk forever about nutrition. But I would like all of you listening out there, Sanjay has an amazing deal for you guys. For the first 5 listeners to download this podcast and listen, and also follow him on social media at Go Big Raja. That's your Instagram handle, right?
Yes.
If you guys follow all of his social media sites, which we will have listed under this episode, the first 5 will get a copy of his ebook for free.
Yes, I'm happy to share it. So this is getting easier. So follow us on our Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And then once we verify the first 5, we'll send them a free copy of the ebook.
That's exciting. I can't wait. So
absolutely.
Again, this is the episode 2 of Honest Talk Radio, and it was the food talk with Sanjay Raja, and we are excited to have you guys listening and can't wait for next week. So go follow us on social media and stay tuned for more topics to come.
Absolutely. Thanks.